a wonderful place existed.
The Athenians called it
The
Acropolis. Free expression, ethics, art, philosophy. The Acropolis heralded the democracy. But if I told you the Acropolis has returned. Acropolis News. News from the Acropolis.
Secular Catholics are out of touch. My name is Trevor Brown, and you're watching The Trevor Report. This segment of The Trevor Report is sponsored by NordVPN. Click the affiliate link down below in the description in order to experience all of NordVPN's wide-ranging offers that help protect you and your internet privacy at an affordable price. One of the advantages or disadvantages of the culture war, depending on how you view it, and I suppose your opinions, politically and philosophically and ideologically, is that more often than not, you don't know who's winning or losing. Now, to be fair, I'm firmly on the anti-woke, on the people who are not secular Catholics, as it were. I'm firmly on, I guess, what you can describe as the sort of meta ethics and the sort of not purely materialist side, if that makes any sense. But look, long story short, I went over this, I believe, 2 Trevor reports ago. But it's basically, long story short, this video is basically like makes out the Republicans to be bad, and there's this Hollywood thing, and it's all current politics, current year, and a future sci-fi show, etc., etc., etc. I don't watch Star Trek. I haven't really had a lot of time to watch a lot of TV lately because of various things. But here's a caveat here, okay? The video, and again, as always, I have to add this caveat, I guess, every time. I don't record desktop audio on the Trevor Report because, well, it causes problems, basically. So yeah, no audio. But basically, it shows 2 seconds, right? Yeah, 2 seconds of the sort of Stop the Steal protesters, and then it shows 1 second of the Stop the Steal riot that occurred somewhere else in a different part of time with a different faction group of people, a Fedsurrection, as it were. All previous reports linked down below in the description, blah 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 blah. But it also plays 1 second of I guess black nationalist protests, right? I believe that was the I don't know which protest that was, but I'll assume it was one of the protest and or riot, the sort of protests that devolved into riots during the violence in pursuit of racial power in the 2020 in the race riots of 2020. But it shows 1 second of that protest and 3 seconds. Yeah, 3 seconds of violence. So look, Occam's razor, the simplest answer is usually the one that reflects the most with reality. is that Hollywood just hates middle America. Hollywood just hates the flyover states. Hollywood just hates working class Americans. Hollywood just hates lower middle class Americans. Hollywood just hates middle class Americans, etc., 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 right? That's probably true. Okay? But it could also be that the anti-Trump people, the woke people, right? They could just be incredibly out of touch. Biden sees a new threat, ultra MAGA, or I guess old. Do I want to do? Okay. If this is Latin, ultra would be no. It would mean no more, right? No more make America great again. So they probably don't mean that. But let's actually get into what it means. The president has taken to using the term to warn of Republican extremism. Some Trump followers have embraced it because it sounds cool. Basically, long story short, Biden called Trump king. He called Trump king MAGA, the great MAGA king. He called him King MAGA. Biden's just out of touch. He's just, and I guess Biden, the people, the Biden, the Biden administration, the people who voted for Biden, they're all just incredibly out of touch. Now that they've probably, there's probably a lot of Biden voters that would probably vote for Trump now because just literally everything is more expensive. It's just. The president shouldn't have that much control over the economy, but Biden's economy, how Biden's been handling the economy, is far more regulated than how Trump handled the economy, and that was even during the lockdowns. But and we even have Netflix tells staff to leave if they are offended by its shows. They basically told Netflix staff to the woke people in Netflix's staff to get lost. Told them to get lost. We offer a wide variety of TV shows and movies, some of which can be provocative. We support the artistic expression of the creators we choose to work with. We program for a diversity of audiences and tastes, and we let viewers decide what's appropriate for them versus having Netflix censor specific artists or voices. You could have censored cuties, though. You could have censored, the movie where you had to, have children do disgusting, perverse, degenerate nonsense. You could have had, you could have censored Big Mouth. You could do that. My little brother was obsessed with that show. It's weird, and why, I don't know. It's gross. It's disgusting. There's all sorts of stuff on Netflix that you could that they could censor that they're not going to censor. Okay, just that as a quick caveat, right? There's a difference between political censorship and anti-pedophilia action. Okay, anti-pedophilia action, right? Anti-pedo, as it were, is a good thing. Simple as, right? But then there's political censorship. There is, say, banning the great MAGA king from the public square. It's a good thing Trump is a billionaire and can build his own public square on the side. So it's so stupid. Apparently, look. I'm just gonna move on to the next segment. I'm just gonna move on. Right. Here's the thing. Senator Rand Paul is going against the $40 billion of aid to Ukraine, which there's we could take that $40 billion and use it to give to make the to fix the drug problem in the country, but whatever, fine. let's just read it a bit further, and then I'll give my analysis. U.S. Senator Rand Paul blocked the Senate from passing a $40 billion bill aid package for Ukraine this week, derailing a plan to fast-track legislation his fellow Kentuckian Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell supported. Paul wanted a provision added into the bill that would assign an inspector general to oversee how the billions were being spent. Mitch McConnell, the turtle man, as we're going, I let's give American money to the Azov battalion. No, and then Rand Paul is like, let's not give rocket launchers to neo-Nazis, and Mitch McConnell's like, no, we need to give rocket launchers to neo-Nazis. You know, I've given my opinion on the Russia-Ukraine conflict. All previous Trevor reports linked down below in the description. Blah 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 blah. But you know, like he has a point. You know, just hey, let's make sure that the money for these weapons goes towards precisely the thing that we say it is. If we have to spend money, and that just wasn't a good idea. It just wasn't a good idea. It just, with $30 trillion debt, America can't afford to be the world's policeman. Sensible. Makes sense. There's nothing wrong with this. Absolutely nothing wrong with this. This is literally just common sense, which is why Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Alexandria Ocasio-Robespierre, and all of the sort of neocon, neolib, uniparty types. You know, it's like this is stupid. This is stupid. This is stupid. Okay. Okay, the corporate press, right? The experts have been telling me that the Ukrainians are doing just fine. Like, they've suffered heavy losses, but so have the Russians, and that's just like what I've seen scrolling through my feed. Truth be told, the minute Putin called NATO a bunch of Nazis after NATO released statements that Putin was a Nazi, at that point I stopped caring. I did. I just stopped. You know, that's the way it was. But what I wanted to talk about was basically, I first saw this when Jimmy Dore, he's a left-wing political commentator, right? He basically said that Rand Paul and Marjorie Taylor Greene are more left-wing than the Squad. Okay, first off, no. Okay, I have something going up on the main Acropolis news channels coming up on June 2nd. It's a new podcast. But segment 3 of that podcast, which is exclusively on the Acropolis News .com, right? It's the premium segment of the show. You know, as always with new premium series, you know, the first one's always free, as it were. But basically, I went over in that third segment, I went over left-wing values. Basically, look, long story short, without getting too much into the detail on the philosophy, because that's not what the Trevor Report is for. You know, this is a quick breakdown, a quick aggregate, as it were. You know, to sort of empower people with more populist leanings to get a curated recap of things that have happened, right? Anyway, long story short, Jimmy Dore said that Rand Paul and Marjorie Taylor Greene are more left-wing than the Squad, and are more left-wing than Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. This is obviously not true, but Jimmy Dore is part of a previous political paradigm where you just label everything you like as left-wing and label everything you don't like as right-wing. No hate to Jimmy Dore or whatever. You know, I'm very happy to see I guess left-wing political commentators that aren't secular Catholicists, you know, woke, as it were. But he's wrong. Basically, I guess a broad description of what a left-wing value is essentially everyone anything and everyone with sentience in all places at all times is the sort of constituency of left-wing values, whereas a right-wing constituency of value would be things that are that belong to us and are ours, right? Like our country, our culture, right? Things like that, right? When Ron Paul and Marjorie Taylor Greene appeal to the current state of the country and the problems of the country and why we should not be helping other people in foreign countries, he and she, right, Rand Paul and Marjorie Taylor Greene are both essentially arguing from the position of right-wing values, right? Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Alexandria Ocasio-Robespierre, etc., etc., etc. They are arguing left-wing values, right? The Ukrainians, right, being human, have sentience. Therefore, they are a part of their constituency being left-wing. And that's essentially why Marjorie Taylor Greene and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Ron Paul, and I guess anyone else who opposed giving $40 billion to Ukraine, they're appealing to right-wing values. Or, there could just be some left-winger senator or congressman with who's just being stubborn. And you know what? Fair enough. I like it when politicians are stubborn for the sake of their own constituency. When it's for the sake of ego, that's when it kind of gets out of hand. But anyway, let's move on to the next segment. Texas has declared open season on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube with new censorship law. Texas law makes it illegal for any social media platform with 50 million or more U.S. monthly users to block, ban, remove, deplatform, demonetize, deboost, restrict, deny equal access or visibility to, or otherwise discriminate against expression. Boom, 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 boom. With the exception being, you can't like murder, pedophilia, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, on a side note, sidetraction, there's no such thing as child porn, because in order to make porn, the parties have to consent. Otherwise, it's not porn. It's rape. And since children can't consent, all child porn is not a thing. It's just child abuse. But anyway, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm so excited about this controversial law. It takes into effect. The origins of the Texas law, HB 20, lie in the long-standing Republican criticism that big tech platforms discriminate against conservative users, and a charge that companies have denied, which platform moderation users say there is little evidence or support. Well, the thing is, there's all of these YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter alternatives that are popping out all over with a bunch of varying features because cancel culture isn't a thing, and it's just on Twitter, right? No one's being discriminated against in the United States for having the incorrect beliefs, so which is why nobody's going to Odysee, nobody's going to Rumble, no one's going to Minds, no one's going to Getter, right? It's not that there's tens of millions, it's not that there's nearly 100 million people, this isn't just the U.S. alone, that are using all of these various non-Silicon Valley, liberty platforms instead of the Silicon Valley Authority platforms that deprive you of equal access to the public square for having the incorrect politics, while they allow pedophilia, and terrorism videos in foreign countries to run rapid, etc., 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 etc. All previous reports linked down below in the description, right? It's simply not a thing. It's just simply not a thing. How might social media platforms respond? Well, look, there's two ways they could do it. They could just shut down in Texas, and everyone in Texas would be better off for it, and they'll probably just make their own equivalent of Silicon Valley, which, because of its free speech protections, will be 10 times better than Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube will ever be. And that's that. But anyway, let's continue. Twitter stock falls after Elon Musk puts buyout deal temporarily on hold. Basically, there's a huge bot issue. with Twitter. It's more than 5%, and Elon Musk is backing out because, well, it's being speculated that he's found out that it's much more than 5%. And well, look, I have no stake in the whole Twitter debate. I've been facetiously calling Elon Musk the God Emperor for the same reason. Last year, I facetiously called Greg Abbott the God Emperor. Basically, I have this running joke on the Trevor Report where if you do literally the bare minimum for making the constitutional republic of the United States a better place to live in, you're the God Emperor, and thank you for doing the Lord's work. Of course, saying as an atheist, saying you're doing the Lord's work. That's where the layers of the joke come in, etc., 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 etc. But what we need to talk about is toxic femininity. In 2018, there were a group of women engaging in targeted harassment campaigns that were designed to deprive people of equal access to the public square and discriminate against people in the United States and the Western world, more broadly speaking, for being born wrong. And they did so by essentially taking advantage of a situation involving Harvey Weinstein. Basically, look, everyone knows who Harvey Weinstein is if you're in the United States, and I'm making this to a US audience, but essentially, if you don't know, Harvey Weinstein did a lot of no things with girls. He did a lot of things that require consent, where there was a gray area of consent. He had a button on his desk that would lock the door from the outside. That would prevent women he had in his office from leaving, promising to unlock it if they would sleep with him or whatever. It's very, very disgusting. A bunch of disgusting degenerate nonsense. There was Harvey Weinstein doing sexual favors, blah 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 blah. But a bunch of female supremacists essentially took advantage of that and used this term called toxic masculinity. Basically, long story short, because Harvey Weinstein did this disgusting thing after disgusting thing, because of Harvey Weinstein specifically, all men are inherently evil, right? It's completely flawed logic, but you know what? It's time to treat female identitarians, right? The female supremacists the same way. It's time to treat feminists the way they treat normal people, right? The intersectional feminists, okay? It's time to treat them the way they treat normal people. It's time to, in the words of Kimberly Crenshaw, have a Gramscian war of position. Amber Heard is the prime example of toxic femininity. She lied, assuming that because she is a woman, people would believe her. And not only did she lie about being a victim of abuse, she abused her husband, okay? And then when she felt like discarding the husband that she abused, she did it. And she did it in exchange for social brownie points. She did it to enrich her status by discarding the people around her that she abused. Ladies and gentlemen, we have toxic femininity. Make hashtag toxic femininity trend. Let's have a Gramscian war of position. Why not? Why not? I'll tell you why not. It's because we, the anti-woke people, the people who aren't secular Catholics, we are committed to civil society. We like to treat our political opponents not as lessers the way they treat us. We like to treat them with dignity, honor, and respect. But the problem is, there's only so much dignity, honor, and respect that you can give. There's only so much respect, honor, and dignity you can give to abusers, to toxic femininity. Look, I'm being facetious. like that's basically like 28, like the end of 2018 to like midway through 2019 in a nutshell. I'm old enough to remember this, right? That's like, imagine if people did that. What feminist groups would have to say, that the super PACs and the donations, the corporate press, like what would be in Hollywood if anyone tried to do that. And obviously, don't do that. Don't have a Gramscian war of position. The only reason you would have a Gramscian war of position is to subvert liberal democracy. Don't do that, by the way. That's a dumb thing to do. But anyway, speaking of subversions of liberal democracy, we have to move on to the fifth and final segment. There's this documentary going around from Dinesh D'Souza, the sort of right-wing equivalent of Michael Moore, and the sort of like left-wing documentary filmmakers. Basically, Dinesh D'Souza makes a film about like a documentary about like, you know, about like things that people on the right are concerned about, and does the investigative work and gathers evidence for it. Michael Moore does the same thing, but for left wing causes. Don't get me wrong, Dinesh D'Souza's a better filmmaker. He jumps to like camera positions a little too quickly in my opinion, but you know, like other than that, he's a fine film director. Like Michael Moore, he made like a lot of his his better movies earlier, and it really didn't seem like he knew how to like it really seemed like for some of that he was working with a newer camera, and he was having someone else having someone else like direct and things like that. Dinesh D'Souza is like a slightly better filmmaker. Some Michael Moore films are more like a Michael Moore film can be slightly interesting even if you disagree with it. I'm saying someone who's watched like one when I was like 11, I think. But anyway, in this movie, 2000 Mules, basically it assumes that there were a bunch of no things in the election, and like me and my grandma watched it because this is the kind of thing my grandma like concerns herself with watching, and this is the kind of thing that I watch too because I have to do it for my job or whatever. I'm going to include this. It should be the Let me actually take a look. It'll be the second link under segment 5. But there's one thing that I also need to talk about. I'll also include Ben Shapiro's analysis of it in the description. Watch this film first, right? It's about a little under an hour and a half, right? And then watch Ben Shapiro's analysis of it, because I don't think Ben Shapiro like actually watched it. Like, he reviewed it, but it doesn't seem like he actually watched it based on his commentary. I could be wrong, but I'm just gonna leave it at that. Just make a decision for yourself. In the meantime, my name is Trevor Brown, and you just watched the Trevor Report. Do click the Linktree that I was forced to make because I opposed black nationalism, and Linktree banned my previous Linktree for opposing black nationalism. So I made my new one down below in the description. This video is sponsored by Acropolis News Network, the world's first fully independent media organization that is powered by Liberty platforms, peer-to-peer advertising, and cryptocurrency. On Acropolis News Network, we have a different standard of journalism. We allow anonymous reporting like Project Veritas. We also have a few anonymous reporters. I'm not going to say how many of them there are, and I'm not going to say who they are because they're, anonymous. But more importantly, if you subscribe to a membership subscription onto Acropolis News Network, not only will you get access to a ton of premium content that'll be coming out very soon, and a bunch of premium content that's already available on the site right now, you will also help fund our fully independent journalism and our academic contributions to society. If you do so, I would greatly appreciate it. You can also click the donate button over on any of the Acropolis News posts. I, as the chief editor, would greatly appreciate it because, well, it helps us stay independent, like I said, and that's part of our brand. And if you would like that to stay as a part of our brand, well, I would greatly appreciate it.
Acropolis News. News from the Acropolis.
All of you brilliant viewers out there, my name is Trevor Brown. I am the editor-in-chief of Acropolis News Network because I can give myself whatever name and title I want because I own it. You could go to theacropolisnews.com or you could go to ThisJustTrevor on whatever Liberty platform is your choice. You know, except for the ones I'm not on because I haven't seen them pretty much.
Acropolis News. News from the Acropolis.